Can you believe that the day is finally here after 5 long months where we will finally say what we have to say about this freaking video game that I was this close to quitting a moment ago. I don't think this is going to be a 2-hour review like we did with Baldur's Gate 3. Oh, dude. Tommy. Är det bra? Du Tommy. Jesus Christ. Du Tommy, kom här då. Du Tommy. It's fine. I guess the tip of the bed is a little bit risky there. Hi. And Tommy. I was here on nearly every stream. Jesus Christ. Nothing at that? Oh. Shut up. Dog discovers gravity live on stream. Okay. Blink twice if you need help, Alpha. Alright. Let's... listen, I barely started writing down some of my thoughts about the game yesterday, so this is not going to be a complete structured review like we had with stuff like Baldur's Gate 3. I thought we still had time. I thought we would do this on Saturday too. So I think the primary thing we can say about Wrath of the Righteous is that this game is too long. That's like my biggest main takeaway from it, is that this game is just too long. They overcooked this game a little bit, and I would say they overcooked it by like 70% or something. It's just a game that's way too long. And you're too long. I'm gonna show you something longer here in a second, little boy. What's about this? Obviously, I make allowances for the fact that I'm streaming the game, so things take longer for me, right? Like and also my playstyle makes games longer. So when I'm streaming the game, I'm reading all the dialogue out loud, which obviously makes it take longer than it would otherwise, right, in a normal playthrough. So obviously I take allowances for that. That's on my cloak. And exploring everything, also like an Endaline thing to do, right? Like going to every location, talking to every NPC, doing everything I possibly can in one playthrough. Very Endaline thing to do. But I still think that the game being... Let's take a gander. It took us 325 hours to beat this game, right? An absolutely insane amount of time by any account. Let's go Alpha. So I think the game is so actually done, ever done. I think there's obviously something to be said for having epic stories, right? Like sometimes something being long makes it feel more epic, and that's just true, right? I'm currently re-listening to Wheel of Time, one of my favorite book series, and you know there are 14 books. Every book is like a million words or something. It's insane. It's like 1,000 pages. Not a million words. 1,000 pages. Sorry, I think it's like 4 million words total or something. But every audiobook is like 40 hours, right? And there's something to be said for how epic something is when it is long. But there's like a limit to that too, where it's like, you know, the entire Mass Effect trilogy took me like 190 hours to do, right? And that's 3 games. So for 3 games, it took me 100 hours less than this game. Which just seems insane, right? Because Mass Effect is a good example of a long, epic story. But that spans over multiple games. Alpha... lägg du. Hämta mig. Hämta mig. I think that the game should probably have been a lot smaller. And that is in part because maybe sometimes you'll feel like the game necessarily respects your time. Like, there's a lot of things that happen in the game where it just kind of feels like they're adding onto things that didn't need to be added onto, right? It feels like they kind of fall into a trap in this game that I've fallen into when I've designed, like, Pathfinder campaigns, right? Because I design Pathfinder campaigns, which is that they feel like they need to add something to everything, right? So we start the game out in Canabras, and then the Canabras era is like a whole ordeal. Like, all of Canabras is essentially a game in itself. You could play through all of The Last of Us or like Uncharted or anything, like, right? There's a bunch of games you could play through in the time it takes a normal person to get through Canabras, the prologue of the game, essentially, right? But what it feels like is that they unnecessarily added steps to everything they did. Same with the Abyss, right? We go to the Abyss, and there's just so much happening in the Abyss. They didn't need all that stuff there. It could have just been go to the Abyss, solve the main storyline, maybe have a couple of extra things there, and then leave, right? That could have been it. But instead, it's like go to the Abyss, and it's a whole ordeal. It's a whole new map, whole new things to do, and it feels like they do that a lot of the time. Where it's just like they just add things onto it more and more and more and more until you have this impossible stack of content that doesn't really need to exist, right? And similarly, like there's a lot of random areas in the game that I don't think add a lot of value to the game. You know, that you go to an area, there's like basically nothing interesting happening there. You get like 2 items out of it, that's it. So now you're spending, let's say like maybe 20, 30, 40 hours of this playthrough was just me going to those random areas just for nothing, right? And while like I said, while I think that length can be a value of a sort, right? Like something being long can make it more interesting, can make people like it more. I think that dude, hva er det du holder på med? Det skal du av? Hvorfor skal du av? Fikk jeg det. I can't imagine anyone playing Wrath of the Righteous being like, wow, that was a long game. You know, like that's like the form of praise you give it. You're like, wow, what a long game. That's awesome. Love how long the game was, right? You don't usually leave a game praising the length of it, unless it was like appropriately short, right? You don't, it's rare for people like, wow, that was a 300-hour experience. And I'll probably say the same about this, right? I think that this, I think this game and good time per value per dollar, true. I think this game, and games like this especially, right? But Wrath of the Righteous in particular, I feel like the game probably wants you to play through it multiple times, right? Because there's maybe the primary strength of the game is how different it is for every playthrough, right? There's all the different choices you can make that actually alter how your playthrough goes. And you would think that in order to utilize that properly, they would make a shorter game. That way it would be easier for people to play through it multiple times, right? But in the case of this game, I feel like I can confidently say that like 1% of the players are playing through this game multiple times. Most people are not even finishing the game once. That's what 80% of people don't finish this. What is more? It's 90% or something, right? 90% of people aren't finishing this game even once, and then the rest of them aren't playing multiple times. Turn has 4 paths, and they are pretty short, so that was done before. Yeah, that's awesome. I think that if the game was like 50 to 100 hours long, that would probably be great. What they could have done then is that instead of investing all this time they did into making the game so big, they could have instead invested time into making the differences per run more prevalent, right? Like they could have invested way more effort into the dragon mythic path or into the demon mythic path or blah 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 to make everything feel even more special than it already does in a more condensed package, which I think would be more interesting. I think that the DLC also like adds a lot of weight to this length problem, right? Because the DLC ultimately ended up probably being at least 50 hours, but probably closer to like 80 hours of this playthrough, right? It means that if we probably 100 even. So if we erased all the DLC from existence, now suddenly we have a more manageable game already, right? Now we have a game that I would have finished a month and a half ago or something, rather than where we are now in December. So that, and I say that mostly because I don't feel like the DLC adds a lot of value to the game. Like I think I would almost just tell people not to play the DLC if I was going to recommend this to someone. I'd just be like, you know what, just ignore it. The standalone stories are not good. They're arguably a waste of time. They don't tell any interesting stories. All they do is like kind of tack on a narrative to the story instead of building on it. It might be that they chose. Like, I thought about this. Like maybe they chose to do that because you know, maybe there's like they couldn't do the Anivia DLC because you can kill Anivia or something. But I think the best thing they could have done would have been to like have the DLCs set as a part of the campaign with the characters in the campaign, right? Like, what happened during the 6 months where you were gone? If you know, what was Queen Galfrey doing? What was happening in the world at that point? That would be an interesting DLC. Kind of like they did in Kingmaker, right? Where the one Kingmaker DLC is what happened in the area you're going to before you went to there. That's the DLC. Awesome, great, love that. Not so big of a fan of the Sither DLCs because I feel like they just kind of distracted from the game, and they didn't have any like worthwhile outcomes to them, right? I didn't get anything cool from them that I remember. I like just felt like a waste of time. Hi, happy Thursday or something. What's up, Jin? How are you doing? So yeah, I think that the Old Break DLC is fine because that's so well integrated into the main game, and I think that the Treasure Island DLC was fine too because that's also it feels a little bit optional, I guess, but it's also integrated into the main game, so it's not distracting you from the main game too much. That DLC too could probably be way shorter though. It didn't need to be 600 random small dungeons. It could have just been like 10 or something. Fighting life as always, but now fighting life in the Christmas spirit. Nice. I watch you play some variety games. Some Peak and what's that game called again? Repo? Roguelite also nice for testing builds for people. It was destined to be okay at worst. Yeah, sure. If Rather just had DLC similar to the first Rogue Trader DLC, it would be amazing. I haven't played that yet, but I believe you. I played both in college streamers, so yeah, it was cool. I love Peak. I also played Reaper recently for the first time, and Reaper's pretty cool too, so 2 great games. Peak is Peak, yeah. Rogue Trader next. Rogue Trader soon TM. I think that part of the problem with the DLCs is that they're essentially content that like only a fraction of the player base have engaged with, right? So it just feels like a bit of a waste of time, especially when it's like to get the most out of the DLC, you have to play the game multiple times, which just doesn't make any sense to me. Either make them completely standalone or just integrate them completely. Do one or the other. Don't do this halfway thing. When it comes to the story, I think the story in Wrath of Righteous is pretty good. I think I like Kingmaker's story more because I think one of the difficulties they had with Wrath of Righteous is that they focus more on how the mythic paths make the game different rather than creating kind of like one unified story that kind of, is a little bit different depending on if you're evil or good or whatever, but it's overall the same. So I think overall I liked Kingmaker more as a story, but I think this was still a pretty good story. Way, way, way better than Baldur's Gate 3 by far, right? Like, Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't even come close to this in terms of just how good the story is. I will say and you guys can contest me on this. It feels like unless you're getting the secret ending, the ending, at least the one I got, felt very lackluster. It felt like a big nothing burger ending. Even the kind of generic endings, just kind of nothing burgers. Like you arrive in the threshold, you do a dungeon that's pretty easy, then you fight Arelu, which is pretty easy, and then it's just kind of that's it. Like for a dragon, it was just oh, you choose to I choose to keep the world wound open for now. That was your choice. That's it. Like that's your thing, and then you get one slide in the ending screen, and that's the game, right? That feels pretty anticlimactic to me. Like if I didn't get the secret, get the secret ending, I would have felt like the ending was pretty bad. And maybe this is different. Like you guys said that like if you're an angel, you go kill the Skari in the stronghold or whatever. But even then, does it really change more than just here's a different title card at the end, right? Like I think they should have probably had an ending that is like really diverse and interesting and cool by itself, and then have the title card should have been an addendum to that, right? Like the title card shouldn't be how the ending is told. It should be like the story of what happens after the ending, right? This one's mainly because it's like your party disappears. Yeah, sure. Only choice was retiring to the countryside. There they are, but also not there. Zero reaction. Yeah. I also wrote that down in my notes. Like, we'll get to it. We'll get to that in a second. But I also wrote that down. This is one DLC almost 1 year from now. September, October, November. Dragon endings are meh. I like independent endings when you start your country. Like I mentioned, Fighting Life, essentially still trying to land a job, and now also doing the whole networking thing. I think I mentioned a while back that I was kind of forced to move back in with my family. Yeah, you talked about that. But you've been like girl bossing it in the gym or something, right? But yeah, I also wrote that down that like, maybe I wrote that down in like the NPC section. I don't remember. Yeah, I did. We'll talk about the NPCs in a second. Started CrossFit around 2 months ago. Muscles. Hey, listen. Maybe have you thought about traveling to Japan and getting a job at one of those muscle girl cafes? Maybe. They're still hiding, but maybe one day. I think that they do. I think that for the story, they do a fairly good job of introducing the villains and keeping them consistent throughout the campaign. Right? There's a lot of villains, and you know who they are, and they're always relevant. It's something that I complained about Baldur's Gate with, right? Where it's like Baldur's Gate would like you encounter what's his face, whatever the dude is. You encounter a dude in Act 2, then you kill him in Act 2, and then you hear about Ketheric, yeah. You encounter Ketheric in Act 2, and then you just kill him in Act 2, and then you hear about Gortash and what's-her-face, or Orith, or Orleth, whatever her name is. You hear about them, and then you encounter them briefly in Act 3 again, and then you just kill them, and that's it. That's your introduction. And then also, guys, spoilers to Baldur's Gate 3, by the way, if you're worried about Baldur's Gate 3 spoilers, but then you encounter the real villain, which also just irrelevant, and then you kill them, right? It's like, in this game, they do a good job of setting up the villains continuously and making them relevant, right? You're not constantly running into the Skari, but the Skari is there at the start of the game, and his minions show up constantly. You don't forget that the Skari is one of the villains of the game, right? And the same goes for all the villains, and like the smaller villains too keep showing up over and over again. That's awesome, right? They do a super good job with that. But Terran Pro and all that significant ending size took me 40 to 50 minutes to read. That's awesome. I didn't think about it, but now the idea isn't bad. Yeah, go for it, Jin. I think that's a great improvement on Red Adventure Path. The villains are pretty great. And that was a huge thing they did with Kingmaker 2, right? They kind of improved on the story of the Adventure Path. Minago, yeah, Minago, a great continuous villain, right? They do a really, really good job of keeping the villains continuous throughout the game. Noticula shows up, right? Like everyone is always there with you, which is great. This is a huge cast of characters that are for the most part interesting, right? Anivia, Irabeth, all your NPCs, of course, Stout and Vane, right? Like all of these characters that just keep showing up, super good. Love that. Did a great job with that. I think that the narrative also has some twists and turns that you're not expecting, right? Like finding out that your parents aren't from Eomida. That's a good example of something that like you're like, oh, wait a second, and it does kind of pave the path for making the secret ending more interesting, right? Because it's like you're unraveling a mystery a little bit. So the story was overall pretty good, I think. There's some epic moments. I would probably say that like it could do with some more epic moments in it, but for the most part, it was interesting. Psychers are great, but they do very little with them after Act 2, unfortunately. Yeah, there's definitely, but that's like part of the bloat, right? Like the game's just so big that they can't like incorporate everyone continuously. I think that as far as the story goes too, and I can't say this with confidence because I've only done one Mythic Path, but I obviously heard what you guys have said. I think the Mythic Paths are probably the main selling point of the game, right? I think that if you're going into the game, you're probably doing so for Mythic Paths. The Mythic Paths are what make the game interesting and different every time you play through it, and that's great. Like that's not a complaint at all. You know, I think that the game drastically changing depending on your Mythic Path is a very cool mechanic in the game. Obviously, I don't know how drastic it is, but based on what I've heard, it seems pretty drastic. It's like you can really change up how the game actually plays, what choices you make, how you're portrayed, just depending on what path you're going. A bunch of like exclusive encounters, exclusive companions. That's super super awesome. Um, a, a thing that I can't comment on, obviously, because I haven't played, is like it does feel like some of the mythic paths are probably more fleshed out than others. Like the Golden Dragon mythic path felt a little bit lackluster. Like there was some content in there. It was okay overall, but I imagine maybe if you're just doing A on the entire game, maybe that is a bit more consistent. Mythic paths are real uneven. Something like Trickster has almost nothing to do. Ancient Demon are like main game and other are DLC. Yeah, that makes sense. But you know, it still seems like there's a lot of variety there though, which is cool, right? Like if I'm playing through this game again, it's because of the mythic paths. Um. Just to circle back on the ending too, I think they should have done more to make the ending a bit more nuanced than just close the world window or don't close it, or like do something a little bit in between. And I think they should have probably relied on more things than just like some random choices you make. Like the ending cards ended up feeling a bit lackluster to me because it feels like they're very generic. You know, especially because we did like 5 endings something at the end there, right? And they all kind of felt almost the same except for a secret ending. It's like if you know you sacrificing yourself for the world wound doesn't change anything in the story except that your companions don't do things with you anymore, right? So it's like, you know, if I sacrifice myself, it's not like Arushale grieves and turns into a demon again or something. It's just it's like she like dreams her life away or something, right? And you know, Lan isn't changed by it. Sela isn't changed by it. Rachel isn't changed by it, right? Like no one cares about it. It's just a little part missing that doesn't say that, you know, it was said that they adventured with the commander, right? That's like kind of what's missing there. So that feels a little bit lackluster to me. And they just mentioned like a bunch of like kind of random stuff, like, oh, you know, this thing you did in like Winter Sun. Oh, the clan traveled north and got disbanded, or like if you didn't, it was like the clan stayed together, right? It just feels a little bit arbitrary and interesting, I guess. And I would probably also say that the secret ending seems. I think the secret ending is really, really, really good, but I think the way to solve it is way, 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 way too obtuse. I could have slightly locked into it. And we're talking insane amounts of luck here, right? Like, let's say I looted the codex. If I looted the codex, the second part, I wouldn't have to cheat for that. Let's say I do that. Let's say I read the book. I'm good. We lock into getting there on the right day. I've answered all the questions before correctly. You know, it's like there's a lot of steps there that don't necessarily make sense. Where it feels like you probably have to play through the game 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times to really like get it, unless you're working with other people. I think I prefer more the Kingmaker type secret ending, where it's like you can actually kind of stumble into it in one playthrough, and if you don't, then figuring it out is relatively simple. Ancient felt like default path to a point. I thought it's just the normal main story. Everyone tells that Ancient's default, but I'm a demon believer. And demon, I don't like to be mean to people, even in games. Same. I think that the NPCs, like overall, when we talk about NPCs, I mean party members. I think that overall the party members are interesting. You know, I can see reasons to bring all of them with you, and I think all of them have some merit. I think some feel significantly fleshed out than other characters, like, you know, like a Red Jewel or like Ember or someone like, you know, or Nenio. These characters feel like they interact more with the world and that they have more things that they bring to the story than someone like Lan or someone like Greybor, right? Like what does Greybor really do in the story? It's just like a guy being a guy, and that, you know, if you like that type of character, that's awesome for you. But you know, when you compare that to like Ember, who is responsible for a demon lord being redeemed, the like scales there are a little bit different, right? Like it's and not every character has to be super involved and crazy and have like a sick story. It's just like it feels a little bit disjointed, right? I think something that that Baldur's Gate 3 did a good job with was like keeping the side characters consistently bonky, right? Like all of them are kind of crazy with how their stories went. Maybe like Lae'zel, not so much, but still. You're just a janitor cleaning brothel. You don't have to be evil. You will get the best Arshel dialogue in the game when playing demon. She will try to hardcore to try to make you not go through demon. Awesome moment. That's awesome. I also said this during, and this is kind of like this is the thing we'll bring up again. Like the lack of voice acting for the party members creates a bit of like a weird narrative distance for me. Especially as a streamer who's reading the dialogue out loud, right? Because it feels like the voice actors are portraying the characters and I'm portraying the characters. So it feels like they're kind of turned into two different characters depending on who's reading them, right? And I'm not saying like I'm not saying, oh, I'm an actor taking on the role of the NPC or whatever, but to an extent, right? When you're reading the dialogue, that's your performance. And when the voice actor reads them, that's their performance. So I probably would have preferred if all of the party members was just voiced. That's probably a priority I would have set for the game. That's all for making Dark Heresy full voice. Acted, yeah, that's gonna be great. I mean, bless Baldur's Gate 3 if we're being honest, but I think that despite the characters being really good, and this was mentioned earlier, they end up feeling a little bit inconsequential because they don't butt in as much as they could, and they don't really have strong opinions that matter. And by the time you get to the end of the game, they don't really say anything. They have some like pep talks with you, like, "Oh yeah, let's do this. This is the end, right?" But like when I'm standing at the end of the secret ending, and Aurelio's like, "Hey, you want to send all your companions?" They say nothing, right? It's like a radio silence. Reg doesn't go, "I don't want to be tainted by the chaotic powers of the abyss." You know, like there's something like that happening. It's not Nenio saying like, "Oh wow, an experiment." You know, it just kind of like it just happens, right? And there's a lot of that happening towards them. Where it's like none of them really have a say, right? Like I'm like reading a novel at Aurelio, saying like this and that and this happened and then this happened and we went there and did this, and like none of my companions are saying anything. It's just complete radio silence, which feels a bit weird, right? It feels like when you're playing a game like this, like I'm the main character, but it feels like the other people should be supporting party members, right? Like if this was a tabletop campaign, how would this work, right? We would have discussions about it, we talk about it, you know, maybe everyone would butt in with the experiments, right? So that ends up feeling a little bit lackluster, I think. All right, here's my proper presentation on ascending to Godhood, yeah, and your companions are just like saying nothing, right? Or really sacrifice yourself. There's nothing. Yeah, that's a very good observation. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, when you sacrifice yourself, nothing happens, which is weird, right? Like that's kind of what I meant with like the ending should be more fleshed out. They should have an ending that is an ending segment, right, where stuff happens, and then the title card should be an addendum to that, right? So you should have an actual ending where we do a thing, and then maybe you have like some cutscenes, you know, like if you sacrifice yourself, you have like a funeral, maybe a parade through Canabres, you know, stuff like that, and then you get to the title cards. But instead, we just have like the thing happens, GG title cards, there you go, right? It just feels a little bit lackluster, right? It feels like a lot you could do there. Oh, I need to to bring us back to the subject of like voice acting, I think, you know, contentious to some people. Some people don't like voice acting. That's fine. I think that a game like this like desperately needs voice acting. I think Baldur's Gate 3 proved that, and I think the fact that they're doing it in Dark Heresy proves that too, right? There's just so much dialogue in the game, and you know, reading it out loud is frustrating if you're streaming, but if you're just reading it yourself too, there's just so much dialogue, and a lot of it is a little bit monotonous or pointless, right? Like you're talking to, you know, I'm talking to that guy in the tavern, and for some reason I'm like asking him all about his like life and where he came from and how he got here and blah blah blah. You know, it's like a lot of dialogue, and obviously some people can argue. They can be like, well, don't read it then, right? It's optional. Don't read it. And you could say that's a fair argument, but for me, if they put something in the game, it should be good enough to be in the game, right? It shouldn't be you know, some people might read it and be like, oh, I love the world building. Sure, that's fair. But I think for most people, they read that and they're like, okay, why are we doing this? And it also feels unnatural, right? Like, you don't just, like, I don't walk up to someone, I'm like, Iterate, oh, hey, dude, how did you get here? Like, what's your life story? Oh, you know, where were you born? Like, what did you do growing up? Where do you go to school, right? Like, that's not how you talk to people. But in a lot of these games, that's the dialogue, right? Like, it's like I go up to someone, like, oh, hey, where are you from? They're like, well, I came from Shellyax. I used to be a farmer, and then my wife took ill, and I searched the world for it. It's like, you know, it's the type of stuff that, like, just doesn't happen, right? That's not how the world works. These aren't natural conversations that people have with each other. And I think if you voice actor it, that would also be a little bit apparent, right? Especially if you had the characters talking to each other, like the voice actors. You'd just be like, well, like, what is all this, like, rambling about, right? Like, humans don't interact like this. Yeah, that just feels a little bit weird, right? Like, it might be that some NPCs in this game have more dialogue than some, like, you know, like than Nocticula, right? One of your advisors probably have more dialogue than Nocticula. We need voice acting, so more normies by the game. Yeah, unironically though. I would like good voice acting would work on me. I think voice acting is like paramount. And part of that too is that I think that, you know, when I play a game like this, I kind of want performances, right? Like, I'm
Amazing.
Hey, Soapy, what's up? Hey, let me do a shout out. Let's do a little addendum to the review. Sulfur, do I know that game?
Oh shit.
What the hell was that?
The bear almost fell over.
Oh, I've seen this.
What happened there?
Yo, guys! It's Morrowind! That's Morrowind!
Okay, let's go economy.
PUBG! PUBG!
Wait, hang on. Okay.
Yo, it's PUBG! Thank you so much, Soapy, for the raid. Super appreciate that. Everyone, please click the button above the chat to give Soapy a follow. Hello everyone, Endaline here, video broadcast. We're currently reviewing Wrath of the Righteous, so I'm gonna be rambling and it's gonna be a lot of spoilers. Warning ahead. Hope you had a great stream, Soapy. Hope Sulfur was good. I've seen this game, but I haven't had a chance to check it out. Looks pretty cool though. I'm trying to scroll up. Doesn't even matter if it's not the type of game I play. Yeah, for sure. What we can do, because it still is an even more, so that point was small studio doing niche games, not enough budget for that. What can you... yeah, well... I mean, I would argue that what you can do is you can make the game 100% shorter, and then, you know, you can make a 50-hour game and voice like everything instead of making it 300 hours. That would be my argument, but... Nocticula has a lot more content in Demon Path. Okay. Yeah, but the point still stands that, like... Random NPCs still feel like they have more dialogue than some primary characters, right? Which I think is weird. But, what I was going to say was that, usually if I'm playing a game like this, I'm looking for, like, a performance, right? Like, for Nenio, I'm looking to see what can someone do with Nenio. And for me, at least, like, I'm not saying this works for everyone. I'm not saying it's for everyone, but, like, you know, I like having that voice actor performance there to, like, portray the character for me. You know, if you look at a game like Clair Obscur this year, right? Like, let's imagine Clair Obscur was it was just all text. No dialogue, like no voice dialogue at all. Do I think the game would be even remotely as good? No, absolutely not. Can you apply the same to like a text-based game like this? Maybe not, but you know, I think that for games like this with an ensemble cast, I'm kind of looking for performances, and I think the people that voiced the characters did an excellent job. Like Rachel, damn, what a great character, right? And we should probably talk about that too, right? Like some of the characters in this are peak characters. Rachel, incredible. Probably the best character in this game. Probably the best character, maybe in any RPG. That guy was consistently just awesome. Like, I love that dude. Even if my character didn't align with him on all the choices, that's like my favorite type of character. Like Rachel, just incredible, well written. Like everything about Rachel is just incredible. That guy is so he's like unintentionally hilarious because you know that whenever he says something he means it, right? Like when you get the secret ending and the slide is like it's like Ascended Rachel decided to do something about the abyss or something, you're like, that's the abyss for you. Well, GG, right? And that's the best endings. It's just like he's just like a very, very well written a very well written lawful evil character, right? I've seen his endings on Trickster Aeon. No, I haven't. Are they good? And same with like Ember, right? Like Ember is a very, very good character. The you know, the thinking about how Ember functions in the universe is never gonna not be funny to me. That's gonna stand out to me consistently throughout my life, probably, right? Like the thought of these demon lords being tormented by this like elf girl who's like praying like, oh, don't you think that you're just, you know, sad maybe? And Baphomet's like, oh god, get out of my head, right? Like that's so funny to me. I don't care how much character propaganda you spread, I will not play this game. Listen, dude, you should not play this game. It will take you way too much time. Not worth it. But it does have really good characters. Well, to be fair, you run tabletop games, so maybe you should play this game for inspiration. But I don't think you run Pathfinder though. You run Dungeons and Dragons, right? You're not a base Pathfinder player like me. Best thing about Ember is that they don't simply explain what their deal is. Well, like with the Raven. Here's what I would. I do have the Pathfinder 2 books and I want to move to it. Dude, I love Pathfinder 2. It's literally my favorite system by far. It's so good. Here's my thought, okay? Bare minimum for a game like this, okay? Bare minimum. They should voice all the party member dialogue and all of the main story. I think that should be bare minimum, right? Anything that is mandatory to finish the game should be voiced. Anything a party member says should be voiced. That would be my bare minimum. And I think that's pretty achievable, even for a small studio with not a huge budget, right? Like, make it a stretch goal. They reached like a 2 million stretch goal. Just make one stretch goal, fully voice, or like fully voice the main story. Easy peasy, right? That should be pretty achievable, I think. Alpha, come on, Alpha. I think that another thing that the game kind of suffers a bit from, which Baldur's Gate 3 didn't have this problem too much, and I don't remember if I noticed it too much Kingmaker, but it was probably a problem in Kingmaker too, is that like the way they do cutscenes in this game and like animations, it's very, very rudimentary. And it kind of takes me out of the moment every time it happens because it's so janky, right? It's just like the times when they do like the bosses, you know, running away from you and like monologuing, that stuff is silly. Like when they do like the setup where you're like your characters run somewhere and the other characters run somewhere, and then like they do like buffs and stuff, like it feels very, very janky. And I think honestly, with how they have the storybook set up, I think I would have preferred for most of it to just be storybook. Like, just instead of having these like at the end of the game, for instance, right? When you go into the world wound, they could have just had the storybook come up and then just like tell you the story of what happened next, right? I think I would have way preferred that to what they kind of do with these like janky ass animations. And I think that would also work really well with narration, right? Like if the storybook was narrated by a really good narrator, like in Baldur's Gate 3, I could probably add a lot of like weight to those moments and make them sound more epic than doing some like janky animation where your character's like walking and doing some like jump or something, right? I similarly think that like for a game that's so artwork focused, I feel like, listen, I understand that art is expensive, but there's not that many characters in the game that you would need art for. And I feel like they could have afforded art for more characters. That could have been a stretch goal, for instance, right? Like, make it a stretch goal to to have art for every character. I don't think that would be too expensive, and I also think they could have done maybe more with the art, right? I think about some card games I played where you know, the artwork on the card changes, or maybe like have some effects going for it or something. That could have been cool, I think. They could have, you know, maybe have the characters change expressions on the art, stuff like that. I think would have been interesting to do for sure. Just because if you're going to rely on a little picture, right? Like if the picture, if this is what I'm looking at, the vast majority of the game, you know, you can probably do things with this picture. You can like maybe have Reg on different poses, different places. You could maybe animate some part of this. Honestly, if you're talking about saving money, and if you're talking about like partially ethical AI use, right? You can probably use the AI to change expressions on the faces pretty easily without that being like a pretty big deal. And without costing you a lot of money, right? So, you know, that's something that might be that I would probably enjoy personally. I think that might have been a good thing to do. As controversial as that might seem, I think evolving the character portraits is would be a good way to like make it more interesting going forwards. They're under us now. Hopefully, Dark Heresy will hit the mainstream. No, mainstream. Well, certainly not mainstream, but certainly a much wider audience. Warhammer is very, very popular. I think if they do a fully voiced Warhammer game, that has huge potential for sure. Curious with AR for the art. What are they? Stupid. Hey, I wouldn't have cared. Okay, Bosco 2 TB had more character portraits if you think about it. I don't remember that, but I believe you. Just do Japanese style characters, version sheets like this. Yeah, great example, right? Here, let me bring this up on stream so we can all look at what I'm looking at. If you just did this, then I feel like that would add a lot to make the characters feel more alive when you're just looking at the portrait, right? Like if, you know, if Arashel is happy and she's smiling, you'd be like, oh cool, you know, this is the moment Arashel is happy, and then you can kind of like get some emotion out of the different scenes, right? Look, this is Arashel when she's having sex with me, and this is after sex when I turn to a dragon. Let's see. But yeah, I think that would probably be like, I was able to put Castoria on the stream. Oh god, what is this like a Honkai Star Rail character? You turn into the dragon after, not before. Yeah, I do it afterwards. That's why she was mad at me. They did something like that with portraits in Rogue Trader and Fist Situation. That's cool. Even just a few different expressions should be enough too, while it's not spectacular or anything. Fire Emblem has more added to the characters with only 5 portraits per person. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, that would be like, if there's one thing they could probably easily do that I think could kind of drastically change how the game feels from a character perspective. Alpha, shut up. That would be that. Just do more with the character portraits. Make them more expressive. Make them Alpha, shut up. Make them more expressive. Make them more interesting. Make it so that I can't even use my stick. Logan! Yeah. It's genuinely like I'm surrounded by a bunch of toddlers. Go. Caster alternative world version of female King Arthur from Fate Grand Order. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, when you say it like that. Yeah, that would probably be my like. That would be like if I, you know, if voice acting is unachievable for an entire game. If that's unachievable, if there's one thing they could do to improve the characters, that would be it. Just a few different expressions. Great. That would solve a lot of problems, I think. I think probably where you would say that, and once again, I only played the game once, so I can't speak this 100%, but just based on what people have told me, I think where you would probably put like this game in the upper echelon of RPGs is probably from the choices in the game, right? It feels like the choices you make overall can make pretty drastic changes in the story, and yeah. It's like these dogs are toddlers. it feels like you can overall make some pretty drastic changes in the story, and that's kind of what would make me want to replay it. Like I said earlier, the mythic paths, right? Like, you, if I'm a lich, it seems like I get like a bunch of different companions, a bunch of different stuff happens. I get a Sigurath or whatever, right? Like, if you're an Aeon, you're like time traveling. It seems like there's a lot of stuff like that where the choices in the game like actually kind of, you know, maybe not drastically change the story, but at least make enough of a difference that it's interesting. But I would say that like the game still has the it still has that problem. It's like you sometimes just make kind of inconsequential stories that end up being way bigger than they thought they were going to be, right? Like I talked about the Winter Sun thing. I think it's called Winter Sun. I talked about the Winter Sun thing earlier. It's like, why was the Winter Sun people like even on the end slides? Like, were they that important to the story? I don't think so personally. Also, the Technic League, like the AI machine thing. What was that there? Like, just like an irrelevant part of the story that it wasn't that interesting. That's just depressing as hell. But if you like Necromancer, I've heard people say it's one of the best Necromancer representations. That's awesome. Actually, it's expression sheet for ritual. For some reason, they never added to the game. Wait, really? Wait. Oh. That's a really good meme. There's Rachel's expression sheet. Believable. Very believable. A problem with the choices, a couple of problems with the choices that this game has, that all games in this genre can have, right, is that sometimes you can't tell if you're making a choice or not, which this is probably something that should be an option in the game, because some people don't want to know, but I prefer to know, is this going to be significant later, right? Am I just talking right now, or am I making a choice? Because sometimes you can say something that, you know, like let's take Arelu for the secret ending, right? Like, I could say one wrong thing to Arelu, and now I ruined the secret ending, right? Just because I'm like, oh, we're just talking, you know, Arelu and I are just having a conversation, and that can be a bit frustrating when you can make a dialogue option randomly, like, you know, 100 hours into the game, and then 200 hours later you're like, oh, that mattered. Oh, well, fuck me, I guess, right? And you can apply the same thing to a lot of other things in the game, where it's like, when I was a bit too forward to Arishel at one point, right? I was like, hey, Arishel, you want to kiss? And she was like, what the hell, you sick freak, you pervert? Ugh. Right? And then that completely ruined my Arishel romance, apparently, allegedly. I think you can't return from that. But if I was like, oh, I'll smooth it over later, I would just have been permanently locked out of that romance over just like one dialogue choice, right? Which is kind of crazy, as far as I know. But there are other instances like that, right, where you make one choice that is like game altering, even though you didn't really know it. And I think I think overall the game would benefit from having bigger choices that are obvious that matter rather than small ones. And I think it would benefit more from which a lot of these games do, right? I think when you have dialogue options, they should be marked some way, right? I think they did this in Veilguard, Dragon's Age. I heard something about that where it's like they made it clear what the tone is, and also if it like precedes the conversation. So sometimes you might say something, you think like, oh, I'm being sarcastic now. You know, the option is like, I'm gonna kill you, and you're like, oh, like jokingly, right? And your character's like, I'm gonna kill you, and you're like, I thought I was joking, right? Like, because the tone isn't always clear in the dialogue option. I think they should have a way to show tone, and they should probably have a way to show this precedes the conversation, this is a choice, right? Like stuff like that. That way you can be like, because sometimes I'm in a dialogue tree and I'm like, can I click this? Is this a question, or does this like bring me to the next step? That would be pretty. That would be a good thing to do, I think. Just because for choices, one thing you really want players to do is to make informed choices, right? As informed as possible. Sometimes you want it to be secret and they don't know what's going to happen, of course. You don't need it to say like, if you choose this option, then in 30 hours, this character is going to kill you. But you can be like, this is a choice. You know, if you click this, that's a choice. If you click that, that's a question. if you click that, this is stern, that is playful, that is jovial, etc. Right? And after you picked good option instead of neutral evil, which made you miss one flag, which meant you had to go to a specific option in lab to get secret ending. Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah, okay, so good example, I guess, then. Probably don't even remember talking to Aniel. In like the prison cells or whatever, like the fake Aniel in Dresden. That's my biggest problem with dialogue. It's supposed to tell if you're just talking to exhaust dialogue options and get information, or if you progress. Yeah, and that's frustrating, right? Because then you're like, because you're like, oh, sometimes you're deep into a dialogue tree, and then you make a choice, and you have to be like, okay, do I reload now so I can ask all those questions again, right? That's just frustrating. It's just annoying. Slave Prince does that really well with the Explorer, yeah. Slave Prince is a good example. Fake one. I remember talking to her, I don't remember what I said though. See the issue with not having it here, especially where the game is so long, yeah. But both because it's like a question information that can have consequences, like when you press Anivia about her sickness. Get up, come on, get down. What does I don't remember doing that, but I believe you. But yeah, but these are good examples, right? Like they should probably mark things so that as a player, I feel like I know what I'm doing. Because when I'm role playing a character, right? Like I'm Endaline and I'm role playing a character, I kind of have a bit of control of that character, so I know what the tone and my intentions are, and I also know that I can go back, right? If you're playing Wrath of the Righteous, a tabletop game, and I'm talking to Ritual, and I'm like, hey Ritual, how you get stabbed back there? And Ritual's like, don't speak to me, peasant. I'm like, oh, let me ask you more questions. While in the game, she's like, that's game over. You can't like go back and like question him more at that point, right? Yeah. It would just be good, I think. I don't have too much more to say. I think that that's the Neva being sick thing in Act 3. You can ask me about it. She doesn't tell you, but you can be kind of mean and press her if you don't. That's it. If you do, you find out what it was in Act 5. I don't remember if I did that or not. I probably didn't. Was she pregnant? From a... So gameplay is going to be a little bit long, I think, but... And maybe this is where I'll be the most controversial. Maybe this is where Pathfinder players will start hating me. But from a gameplay perspective, I think that the gameplay is overall decent, and I think that it has some good highlights. The game has an insane amount of build variety, right? Like, just absolutely crazy amounts of build variety. To the point where it's almost impossible to think about all the builds that you can do. And what that does is it opens you up to like make exactly the character you want to make. And with almost infinite potential to like mix and match and create interesting combinations, right? That are of varying viability, which is kind of the problem too, right? The problem is that there are so many choices in the game, and the majority of them are going to be garbage for the vast majority of situations. I remember that she used a potion of sex change. Whoa, very nice. Wait, can you run into male Anivia at any point? You press for Act 3, interesting. The problem is that, like, you have a lot of options, but most of them are going to be garbage for most people and for most builds. So it creates a lot of traps in the game, and it makes it hard to identify what is good and what is bad. And you kind of have to be an experienced player to know that, right? A big problem with this, which I complain about the entire game, is that like the recommended feats are just bad overall. You have some feats that have a thumbs up, some that have a thumbs down, but sometimes really good feats don't have a thumbs up, and sometimes like really bad feats don't have a thumbs down. So you end up with a list of like 500 feats, and you don't know what's good or bad. And there's no way to like really sort through them or mark them, right? Like a good thing would have been like a pin system or something, so I can pin the feats that I'm interested in. A good feature would be like a way to sort the feats based on which one you got recently, so I don't have to scroll through the entire thing and see if there's anything new, right? Like, oh, I just hit level 13, so now I unlocked this feat. Instead of to go like, oh, let me scroll through the entire list. Anything new here? Oh, I don't recognize anything, right? So I feel like they could do a lot of work with making that better. There are a lot of trap options in the game. If you don't know how the system functions, then there are so many options that could seem good that are just absolutely useless, right? Like, just like a random example, like a feat that gives you a +2 to AC. Hey, that sounds pretty good. +2 AC. That that's that's 2 more to your AC, which maybe that's the difference between wearing armor, not wearing armor, or whatever, right? Like that could be pretty good. But what you might not understand as a novice player is that, like, in a game like this, especially in a game like this, like also 20, there are 2 options. You have AC or you don't have AC. That's it. There's basically nothing in between. Either you have 90 AC or you have 0 AC. Because at the end of the day, the only time your AC matters is when you're fighting really, really powerful monsters, and they're gonna roll, like Baphomet, they're gonna roll at a +64 to hit you. So, if you have 70 AC, now your AC matters a little bit, but anything below a 64 is completely useless. Which means that if you pick the feat on Ember, you're like, oh, Ember keeps getting hit in combat, I'm gonna give her some AC. Completely useless, right? Like, it does nothing to you. And there's a lot of stuff like that where it's like, for the most part, a lot of these options don't matter because either you have all of it or none of it. But you can get tricked into thinking like, oh, if I have +2 to my will save, that's gonna be awesome. No, Baphomet's spell, he casts that at a DC 46. If you have anything less than a 46 to your modifier, it doesn't matter anymore, right? Or anything less than like a 20. It says new players completely ignore teamwork feats. Yeah, but also new, like, how do new players even know how to build their character, right? Is it going to be fun in Rogue Trader? I was so damn confused in the beginning. Well, I mean, I've played I've played Rogue Trader and Dark Heroes in those systems, so. AC doesn't matter, just pick last stand. True. Quite saw somewhere in RT, leveling up feels like a punishment, not a reward. I would say that's what this game too, though, to be honest. Rather than finishing this, Mrs. Streamer also, hail cuties. What's up, Sergeant? Thank you. But yeah. And what I just said, I think that builds into what I would probably say is like the strong suit of Wrath of the Righteous, but also the weakest part of the game, which is that every battle feels insanely swingy. It feels like there are 2 worlds in this game, which is either you're winning really hard or you're losing really hard, and there's nothing in between those 2. There's one rare fight every so often where you are in that middle ground, but for the most part in this game, you're either winning so hard it doesn't matter, or you're losing so bad that you're essentially... No. Thank you, per for the subscription. Welcome back to the bag. Enjoy your inbox scones. Welcome to the bag. I'm putting you in a bag right now, or in the pizza pocket. Appreciate that. What was I saying? I got free money. Yeah, the combat feels really, really, really swingy, and what that means is like that can be really satisfying from a power level perspective, right? Because when you're owning things, you feel really powerful. When I'm at the end fight and I'm fighting 2 demon lords at the same time and I'm demolishing them by myself, I'm like, I am a god. I'm the coolest character that's ever existed in the universe. But when you're doing 600 fights before that and they're all just pointless fights where nothing bad can happen to you, it's like yeah, oh, I'm powerful, all right. Yeah, oh yeah, I did 700 damage. Yep, that's true, I did that, right? It's just like, it becomes a little bit monotonous, right? The obvious solution to this is to have less fights, but to have them be more intricate, right? Instead of having 500 trash fights, you have 50 good fights. That would be like the best middle ground there, right? If a fight, it is okay. This is also a dungeon master mentality, right? Like when people do preps for tabletop campaigns, having trash fights where the players can just demolish creatures is great because it makes them feel more powerful. But if you have a lot of them, it just becomes tedious because you still have to go through the fights, right? It's like, all right, guys, roll initiative. Okay, yeah, okay. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? It's like, okay, like you're still spending an hour on the fight every time, and that's cool once in a while. But for the most part, you probably want the fights to be challenging, so the players feel like they're engaged in the combat. They're not just like instant creating everything and killing it, right? Acts 1 to 3 are incredible with a few caveats. In Act 3, peak CRP, no notes. Unfortunately, it's peak CRP in a sea of mid-lane fights that only exist to boost Rico. Yeah, I agree with that. How about pre-buffing? Any thoughts on spending a few minutes on on that every time you enter your zone? Yeah, and that's also like that's something I was going to get into, but Pathfinder um, Pathfinder First Edition has a buff problem, and this is a preference thing that we talked about before. Some people love it, some people hate it, but for me, the problem is that like Pathfinder First Edition has a lot of things that exist. Like they've created a dynamic where they have given abilities to enemies. Like they're like, this enemy can drain your levels, and then to resolve that, they're like, oh, but you can prevent that with this spell, right? So they've created a dynamic where it's like a counter dynamic, but the counter dynamic just forces you to have a bunch of buffs on you, right? It's not like I have to show up in the fight prepared like I'm a witcher, right? Like, oh, let's I love it. Fight me, you unbuffed, be buffed. Very much systematic issue. Who loves it? So some people like it. You know, instead of being a witcher where it's like you're preparing for the fight ahead of time, right? Like I'm investigating. I'm preparing my potions, so I go into the fight knowing that, oh, this monster is weak to silver and it's very fast. I need to have my quicken reflexes mutagen, right? And also it has a poison, so I need to be immune to poison. Instead of a dynamic like that, you just go into every battle fully buffed, right? Every time you go in, you just have all the buffs on you. So at that point, we could just remove them, because they add nothing to the game, right? It's just, the only time they add something to the game is when you don't have the buffs, but who cares about that? I couldn't care less about that, right? So just very, very uninteresting. And part of the problem there is that, like, I guess for some reason, Outcat are just completely against the idea of just giving you an easy way to buff. Like, just let me push one button. Here's the two worlds that should be reasonable. Either make it so buffs outside of combat don't take any time to cast, you just insta cast them, or give me one button where you just go through a process, so I can just click buff, and then you just start in a multi travisi, in a multi travisi, in a multi travisi. You know, she just walks around, right? But instead of doing that, I have to manually click. It's just so tedious. The other level drain you to death in 2 rounds, or they do nothing because you have that authority. Yeah, exactly right. Tartuccio! Or they just kill themselves because you're playing Trickster. I haven't experienced that, but that sounds like a lot of fun. And it just creates a burden dynamic, right? Because it's just like, you're not getting countered, and you don't have to prepare for anything, because you just do it anyway. I feel preset boss would be good. I think the best option is just don't have it be in the game. If it's going to be in the game, make it something serious that matters. Like, have Death Ward not be a thing, and then have level drains be a serious thing you have to consider, or just don't have it in the game, right? That would be my opinion. But if you have to have it in the game, at least make it less tedious to buff. Have a buff interface where you can easily buff characters. Like, let me open up a buff tab where I can just click buff, right? Anything, right? That would be pretty easy. It also makes it frustrating, right? When you fight like Baphomet and he just insta dispels all your people, it's like, Alcat, why? Why would you do this? Like, Jesus Christ. And Baphomet too. Like when I talk about like fights with Swingy, Baphomet's a good example of that, right? When I fought Baphomet, there was no way for me to win that fight, because he was just way too powerful. I could only hit him on a 20. He had way too good saves. So what ended up happening is that I had to keep reloading the fight until Nenio resisted 2 saves, and then she cast 1 spell and I won the fight. That was it. That was the entire fight for me. It was just reload the fight 15 times until Nenio saves, cast 1 spell, GG, you win, right? And that's not very satisfying, you know. It's not like you're playing Into the Breach, where everything you do is a strategic decision that builds on itself, right? You're like, I'm gonna move this guy over here so I can shoot there, and then I'm gonna move that guy over here, and then that guy's gonna do, you know. You're instead, you're kind of just like playing this like, will I roll a 20 this time gamble? Which I don't think is a lot of fun. I think that's pretty poor design overall. Which they could resolve by, well, they can't really resolve it, I guess, is the problem, right? Because the game is so unbalanced, and they have to balance the game with you being giga overpowered in mind, right? They have to assume that every player is going to be giga buffed, so they can't really like resolve it either, I guess. Yeah, I would make little buff cards that I'd hand out to people so they knew what I was precasting when we entered a dungeon or similar. I would do all my buffing off screen, because doing it any other way would take 10 minutes. Yeah. You need to kill Baphomet on Angel, I think. All the paths you need to survive. Yeah, that's true. But that's just an example, right? Like even fighting that inevitable darkness or the darkness dude in the one cave, right? That's also a fight where it's just like I would just I just had to survive until I could dispel all the things from it, and then fight, and then I could fight it for real. But what that meant was that I had to reload over and over again because sometimes it would be unpredictable, right? The game's a little bit unpredictable, and it's a little bit hard to know what's going to happen because everything is based on rolls. And a lot of times you need really, really high rolls to succeed. And if you win those rolls, you win. But if you fail, then you just die, right? So it feels very swingy. And for me, that makes it a little bit interesting, right? Because I like fights where it feels like you're like barely holding on. In Baldur's Gate 3, I had a lot of fights where it was like it was very clutch, right? It's like I am barely holding on here, but everything, you know, the difficulty wasn't hitting the enemies. The difficulty was that like the enemies were appropriately leveled, but there were a lot of them, and they were doing damage to me, and I was doing damage to them, and they were debilitating me, right? Like that was how it worked. But instead, in this, it just felt like, you know, it's just you're just living on the luck of the dice. You're not being strategic. You're just like, oh, is Ember gonna be able to dispel? Oh, she dispelled. I win. Nice, awesome. I ever tried just being an Ancient Oracle? I would try that at one point. Sounds like fun. But yeah, that's kind of my thing there. Like I said, this is a positive and a negative, right? Because on one hand, when you're doing that, when I turned into a gold dragon and I became a god, it was so fun breeding a gold dragon breath on creatures and insta-killing them, even though they're real powerful. Loved that. But at the same time, I didn't really get that sense of accomplishment you get with some games, right? Where it's like, I defeated this really hard challenge, right? And I can't imagine that being different on harder difficulties either, because on harder difficulties, you just have to break the game more. You're probably not doing like, you know, ideally in a game like this, you're probably, every roll should probably be around a 10, right? Like, when I'm rolling to hit Baphomet, it should be around a 10 to hit. And that way you're kind of like, it's kind of strategic, but instead, you know, to hit Baphomet, it's a 20, right? And that can be a little bit boring, I think. The game also, this is also a Pathfinder first edition problem, right? But the game has a lot of you lose options. There's a lot of spells that if you cast them and they succeed, they just lose, right? I think I cast Weird on Baphomet and stunned him or something. Or something like that. I cast something on Baphomet and he just became stunned and I just killed him. And it's the same for a lot of things where it's just like, you cast Overwhelming Presence, now the enemies just don't do anything. You cast Icy Prison Mass, now the enemies just don't get to do anything, right? There's a lot of those spells where it's just like, well, hey, sucks to be you, buddy. You don't get to play the game anymore. Trish has the problem of being too powerful from Act 5 onwards. You just don't fight anymore. Yeah, which is a you know, that is fun, right? A lot of people, myself included, you have fun sometimes when you're just like, hey, Baphomet and Ascari, boom, and they're just both dead, right? But sometimes the fighters are and the Montes are, yeah, which can be good, but I would say overall I would prefer for fights to be more interesting. But I think, honestly, and here's just my honest opinion, if in my playthrough even Echo killed himself, this is just Pathfinder First Edition, and you know, triggering Pathfinder fans probably here, but the reality is this, right? To do a successful Pathfinder First Edition campaign, the game master has to tailor the campaign around the characters, right? The game master has to be really good and has to be like, okay, these are my characters. How do I challenge them? And you can't do this in Wrath of the Righteous. They just can't, because who's my character? Well, it can be it can be a character doing 16 multi-classes, right? With 2 different mythic paths. You just can't balance the game like that. It's just impossible. So this is just what it is. That it's just unfortunate the way it is, right? They've sacrificed build variety for a challenge, and that's cool. That's a choice they made, and I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying, like, I would prefer more challenges, but overall, I had fun with the combat, right? Like, it's not a big complaint or anything. I would say that, like, one thing though that I think they should do way better is that, like, it is great that unlike Baldur's Gate 3, this game has very comprehensive character sheets for NPCs, where you can actually read about them, you can look at all their stuff, but those can be really hard to read and tedious, right? Like, every endgame enemy has 800 feats, and it can be hard to figure out, like, what they're actually immune to and stuff like that. And that also goes for, like, effects, right? Like, Ember has a thing that should make no one immune to her fire spells, but for some reason, some creatures are just immune to her fire spells. Nenio had the rod that should remove magical immunities, and that meant I could make some things immune to weird die from weird, but some things that were immune to weird didn't die from weird. It just kind of creates a really weird dynamic where it's hard to tell what's going to work on what characters, right? I feel like they should do a better job of condensing those character sheets down so you can read them and actually get an idea of what you're doing, right? But sometimes I was just like, let me just try this, see if it works, instead of reading it up on it, right? And building on gameplay and on skill checks. Skill checks, exact same problem, right? Skill checks are you succeed or you don't. It's like Nenio at the end had a plus 70 to every lore checks. We're not failing in lore checks anymore. Early game, really early, I was like, I actually had to like buff guidance and think about what I was doing, because it was actually difficult to succeed on skill checks. But then the later into the game you go, it just turns into like a nothing burger. Skill checks don't matter anymore. They're completely irrelevant, uninteresting, right? And that's also something that I feel like Baldur's Gate 3 did way better. I feel like throughout Baldur's Gate 3, the skill checks were almost always relevant. And another thing that I missed a lot from Baldur's Gate 3, which I feel like I did not have a lot of praise for Baldur's Gate 3 in this regard, but one thing Baldur's Gate 3 did really well, which other games could benefit from, is the dice. You know, when you do a check, having the dice pop up center of screen, what buffs can I cast? You know, you see what you have to do, and you're like, oh shit, I have a 65% chance of success there. That's crazy. Click the button, watch the die roll, like see the result. That is very exciting. But in this game, it's just like, it just becomes irrelevant. You just forget there's dice in the game even, right? I think for games like this, they should actually settle in on showing the dice rolls and having that be the thing in the game, right? When I'm hitting Baphomet, the fact that I don't see the rolls without hovering over a mouse over a thing is boring to me, right? I would love to be able to see like a dice roll for everything I'm doing, or at least like have it clear what I rolled. You know, after my action, just have all the dice show up. Like you rolled a 5, a 6, a 7, a 19, you know. And especially for skill checks. Like, I don't think it's an excuse not to have those for skill checks. No matter unless you're going for achievement, fail one time, skill check, that's needed for it. Find out about 10 hours later and have to reroll repeating whole Act 4. Oh my god. What achievement was that? Yeah, I only have a few more things to say. I think that the sadistic game design, okay. I think that the itemization in the game is good overall, but it still has lexicon moment. The game still has the problem where it's like it presents you with a lot of items, some of which I think are just useless for most builds. I think they're just absolutely useless, and you have so much money and nothing to spend it on. I think this game could benefit a lot from having a bunch of really expensive items. Either increase the price of all items, or just have a lot of expensive items that are really, really good, right? That, you know, have an item I can spend 5 million gold on, please. Just have the 5 million gold item. Have things that you can spend gold on throughout the run, so that you're not overflowing millions and millions of gold. That would probably be a good idea. Similar for the Crusade thing, right? Like, I think the Crusade mechanic in the game is fun, but it ends up being kind of, like, pointless. Especially when you spend a lot of time building an army, and then you lose everything because Galfrey just throws your armies away. And now suddenly, you know, I spent 50 hours making my armies, and now they're completely useless. Fresh markets? I think I bought everything useful there. There were things in the DLC though that I wanted, but I couldn't buy those in the base game, so that's just like, I think itemization in this game is good. I think there's a lot of different items. I think it's really, really cool. I think they did an overall great job with that. Way better than Baldur's Gate 3. Way, way better. But I think they could have done a better job with it. I think I wrote down that mechanics are often obtuse, but I don't know what I meant with that. I don't know what mechanics I was thinking about when I wrote that. I'm trying to like... I was probably talking about the Crusade stuff, but whatever. Puzzles in the game, absolute garbage. Some of the worst puzzles the industry has ever created somehow. Don't know how they managed that, but, you know, Good job, Alcat. Round of applause for everyone working on the puzzles at Alcat Entertainment. Really proud of you guys. Please, never work on any puzzles in the game again. That would be my recommendation for you guys. That's just... like, listen, I'm usually very charitable. There's no charitability here. The puzzles in themselves, for the most part, are great. Like, I like the domino puzzles. That's fine. The problem is that you obfuscate what the puzzle is. So I have to puzzle out how to do the puzzle, and then the puzzle is still a puzzle, right? That's bad. That is just awful, right? Like, either we obfuscate the solution, or we obfuscate the puzzle. We don't do both. And if we do, it should still be something that you can, like, you understand, right? Like, I shouldn't walk into the domino room and be like, what am I doing here? I should walk to the domino room and either be told, you don't know what to do here, or I should be told, here's what you're doing here, right? Especially when I have people like Nenio with me that are geniuses. Nenio should be like, oh, this is the puzzle. And then, I don't mind being there and puzzling it together. I love that. Puzzling the dominoes together, that was actually fun. But also, the interface, garbage. Garbage interface. If you want to do a puzzle like that, create a custom interface or something, right? Like, do anything that doesn't require me to click, beep, 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 beep. Oh, pick this up, move over there. Oh, what's that in my inventory? Is it the right one? No, that's the wrong one. I'll flip it over. Like, that's just completely tedious. Create a custom interface for it. Same in Enigma. I loved the Enigma puzzles. They were fun for the most part. But, once again, don't obfuscate what the puzzles are behind walking around the entire dungeon, clicking on symbols, and then being like, oh, they talk about 3 here. That means this symbol equals 3. That's awful. Don't do that. That's just bad puzzle design. Then let me see how long it takes the monkey boy to solve this one. That was the experiment. And that clockwork puzzle at the end there, absolutely worst puzzle I've ever seen in any video game. Whoever made that puzzle, you should lose your job. I'm sorry. I have no sympathy for you. That puzzle is so frustrating on so many levels. You know, we have the hour hand and the minute hand moving at different intervals, and you're supposed to bring to a specific thing, but you can't even see the thing when you're outside of them. And you have to teleport between 2 different areas to do it. And you have to click the thing, and then it does a cutscene. You have to click it again to do another cutscene. Like, absolutely asinine. Honestly, I'm tempted to give this game like a 2 out of 3 on my rating scale, just because of that puzzle. Like, I'm gonna assume that guy was like an intern or something, so I'm not gonna judge the game based on that, but that is actually the most infuriating. Like, I almost quit the stream. That's the first time I've ever almost just quit the stream. I was almost like, you know what, guys? I'm just done. We're just not finishing the game. Like, I'm not even kidding you. I was fuming inside me. It was just... I know I was barely containing it out loud too, but like, it was like this close to just throwing my monitor out the window. That was such a bad puzzle. Honestly, lose your job, please. I'm sorry. That is so poorly designed. There's just no way a human designed that. That was made by AI. I don't know what to tell you guys. Is there an AI disclaimer on that DLC? 1 second, let's go take a look. Excess. Inevitable excess. Steam. No AI disclaimer. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I forgot to put it in there or something. But yeah, that was just awful. I guess to get to like, okay, so to get one over it, that I, you know, we don't usually talk about this a lot, but like music in the game, let's do it right now. Overall good. The music in the game, there are some parts that I was whistling when I'm done playing the game, like I'm just whistling the tune because they were pretty catchy. Overall, probably not gonna stick with me for very long, but you know, they still did a pretty good job with the music. It works for the game. They could have hired Claire Lorenz or whatever his name is. Claire guy, probably a good idea for the future, but overall the music does what it's supposed to do, so that, you know, that's fine. No big complaints there. I love Mythic teams. Yeah, they did a great job with the music overall. I'm just saying, like, nothing sticks out to me enough that I'll probably listen to it consistently after this, but good enough for the game, right? Like, I thoroughly enjoyed the music. What would probably be the last thing I have to say, unless I forgot something really important? I'll do some brief comparison to Baldur's 3 maybe, but each path having its own theme is great. Yeah, they did a great job with that. I love the Trickster theme. That one's really good. Quality of life. Alcat have a massive, undeniable, crazy quality of life problem. this game has the worst quality of life out of any game I've ever played, right? There's so much stuff that would make this game significantly more playable and shorter and more enjoyable for the average player, for me, for anyone, if it was just in the game, right? Inventory management, basically not existent. You can only barely manage your inventory, and even they don't let you customize anything in there. It's just you can sort the inventory. That's the best they give you, basically, right? Even if you don't sort the inventory and you try to like manually move things around, they will arbitrarily shift around anyway. That's completely useless. You get thousands and thousands of items, and it's hard to just like, you know, anytime it was level up time or item vending time, that was 2, 3, 4 hours of the stream every time, right? We probably spent 40 hours of the stream just doing inventory management, maybe more. Because you go there and you can only sell certain items, you have to click through everything else, and you can't mark items not to be sold, so you have to like carefully be like, oh wait, I might need this later, or this for a different build I'm doing, blah blah blah, right? So you have to carefully mark out all the items. You get a giant bag of consumables, all of them are useless. No way to mark certain consumables as useful, not useful, so you have to go through them again, so that you know which ones to use. It's just like an impossibly boring, really bad situation. They need significantly better inventory management in the game, where you can like sort things. Like Baldur's Gate 3 had bags, right? I would put, oh, these magic items I'm going to use, I'll put them in this bag. Oh, these consumables I'm going to use, I'll put them in this bag. Right now I would have that on each character. Great system, super simple, and not super good, but like intuitive enough and useful enough that it works for my purposes, right? This game has nothing like that. Absolutely awful. No way to you can sort by type, of course, but like I should be able to like click like the glove slot, see, oh, what gloves do I have? Maybe even see gloves that I've encountered, so I can be like, oh, I should go back to this vendor and buy that glove back from them, right? Because that could be useful for Red Shield now. No way to do any of that. You just have to like remember, oh, did I sell an item to this vendor 60 hours ago? Oh, I don't remember. Let me go take a gander. Let me scroll through 600 items. Oh, does this vendor have anything new? I don't know. Oh, maybe they do, right? Just absolutely awful. The same I would say for builds. I think the game needs to have a better way to do builds. They need to have some way where you can like pre-plan a build properly, or where you can like import a build so that it's easier to just go through and do a build, right? People should not have to rely on outside guides. Baldur's Gate 3 has an entire mod catalog in-game that you can browse. I can launch Baldur's Gate 3 right now, look at mods. This game could easily have had like a build catalog where I can be like, you know, I can be like, sort by longsword. So, oh, here's the double longsword build, the Legolas build, and I can just click that and I can import it into my game, and it will just tell me what to grab. And you can have that for each NPC too, right? They should honestly have pre-built paths for each NPC that you can select. So I can be like, oh, I want to do Cavalier Red Jewel, or I want to do Scalefish Land, or I want to do Oracle Camille, right? They should have had preset builds for each character that you can choose to do, just so it's easier to go through. And that way the game will just kind of like make the builds for you, maybe tell you what items to use for them. And that would be such a huge quality of life change for a lot of players, right? But just being able to make your own builds too would save a lot of times and just make the game overall less tedious. Especially just like give us less options and make the options more obvious, and make it so you don't have to go through all the options multiple times. The amount of times I scroll through the same options in this game, probably 50 hours wasted just scrolling through the same feats, scrolling through the same options for spells, blah 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 blah, right? Just a lot of wasted times. Let me pin feats, let me pin spells that I want, etc etc etc. Game desperately needs a lot of quality of life that it just didn't have. I think and there's a lot to be said about quality of life. I didn't really get that part of my notes, but there's probably a lot more that I'm missing that should just be in the game. They should show more things when you hold tab. They should probably show all interactables, or they should be available on the map. The map could be more detailed. The way to deal with like how much damage you do from an ability, like if I mouse over an enemy with like a fire ray, maybe it could show me like an average damage, right? There's a lot of stuff like that. Or it could show me, oh, this enemy's immune. That would be good. The game knows the enemy's immune. I probably know it's immune, right? So just having options like that would be really, really good. There's a lot of stuff like that that would just make the game significantly easier. I could go on and on about this, but like, game desperately needs quality of life. And a lot of that is brought to you with the toolbox, right? Like going through that toy box, there's so many quality of life options in this thing. that are just like, I feel like they should just be in the game. And definitely, if I'm replaying the game, I'm just enabling like every bag of trickery, basically, right? Like letting party members outside the party, you know, speak conversations would be pretty cool. I think. I don't know how they do that. Enhanced map view. Click on equipment slots to filter inventory. You have the option here to like automatically fill belt slots with the same consumable if you use it. Mark interesting NPCs, right? Like just having NPCs that have new things to say or that are interesting be marked on the map would be awesome, right? Like if Voljiv has something new to say, he should have like an aura around him or an exclamation mark above his head or anything like that, right? There's just so much stuff here that should just be in the game already. Make puzzle symbols more clear. Jesus Christ. Oh yeah. I've already rambled for like an hour and a half now at this point, so we're probably getting tired. But I think a big debate in my head throughout this, and also for a lot of people, is like Baldur's Gate 3 gets the reputation of being the best RPG ever. This is the best RPG ever made, and I'm sitting here thinking like, is Baldur's Gate 3 a better RPG than Pathfinder: Wrath of the Righteous, right? And there's a lot of points where you can compare these games. And they have a lot of similarities, and Baldur's Gate does some stuff better, Wrath does some stuff better, and like I'm kind of stuck thinking like, are these games equal? Are they the same? Because are we done? Yeah, we're done. Of course, it's Witcher 3. Because there are things that I really like about Wrath of the Righteous that I hated about Baldur's Gate 3, but there's things I loved about Baldur's Gate 3 that I loved about Wrath of the Righteous, right? Like, I think Baldur's Gate 3 had superior NPCs because they were fully voice acted. Oh, Disco Elysium, yeah, easily best RPG. Not even close. But I'm comparing these two games now. I think Baldur's Gate 3 had better NPCs because they were or party members. Because they were more fleshed out, they were arguably better voice acted because they were mode-capped, but they were mode-capped. They had full animations, right? They were more living. Arguably, I think Redjewel and like Ember and like Nenio are like, I like them way more than the characters in Baldur's Gate 3, right? But Baldur's Gate 3's story was complete ass. That's like one of the worst stories ever. But Wrath of the Righteous has a very good story. Arguably could use a lot of, like Sadin said, I think the later parts of the story could use more work. But arguably a very better story and way more interesting with all the different choices. And I think Baldur's Gate 3 gives an illusion of a lot of there's a word for this, right? But like I think Baldur's Gate 3 gives the illusion of having more of having a more dynamic story, while Wrath of the Righteous does that. It actually has a very dynamic story where if you're a Lich, congratulations, you are on a journey right now. And if you go play the Aeon afterwards, congratulations, this is going to be different. Like, it's not going to be the same, right? Which I don't think Baldur's Gate 3 does at all. Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be pretty similar no matter what you do to it. Like, I was so disappointed when I watched Dualius finish Baldur's Gate 3, and I learned that my ending as my character with Karlach, where we go to Avernus, that ending is just the default ending that Will and Karlach get. They just replace me with Will. Like, Jesus Christ. That is so disappointing to find out. Like, actually just like so sad, right? And I don't think it's a lot of that in this game. I think this game is very upfront about what it changes, and I don't think it's trying to hide or make you feel like you had a choice when you didn't. I feel like you actually have choices in this game, which is really good. From a combat perspective, both games have merits, right? But I think honestly, I prefer Baldur's Gate 3 way more. I think Baldur's Gate 3 was consistently more challenging, and I think it was more interesting. But I don't think it has the build variety that this game has, and the optimization is complete garbage, right? So ultimately, I feel like they're pretty equal, honestly. If I'm being honest here, if I'm jumping into my thingamajig, which exists here somewhere. If you're opening this for the first time in a few months, and I'm writing Items are bad in Baldur's Gate 3. Items in Baldur's Gate 3 are for the most part not as build changing as they are in Wrath of the Righteous. They're not as extensive and they're not as interesting. It's a lot of like they made like some build paths like, oh, you can do electricity build or acid build or whatever. But for the most part, they're just kind of like boring and monotonous. Like, oh, this one gives you advantage. People were saying they fixed that compared to Divinity. I would not say so. I think they did an okay job with it, but it's still the same thing where it's just like, for the most part, the items are not that interesting. Wrath blows them out of the water. I think they're good, but they're not great, right? This is sorted by rating right now? No, it isn't. A to C. Where's right? Oh, I didn't. Yeah, I honestly, I went into this game kind of expecting to think it was significantly better than Baldur's Gate 3, because Baldur's Gate. Here's the thing though, I don't think Baldur's Gate 3 is a good RPG. This is actually a good RPG. 23 real today, probably, in case someone is not aware. Well, it's gonna be it's not gonna be Divinity 3. It's gonna be Divinity Skyrim. That's my guess, to be clear. And hey, if my prediction is correct, then you know where to come, you know where to return to and say, Endaline, you were right, you were right. If I wasn't correct, don't talk about it. I think Wrath of the Righteous is undeniably a better RPG than Baldur's Gate 3, but I think I would rate them pretty similarly. You know, I think they both have problems. I think they're both good in their own way. I think that this game is overall very solid, but it has a lot of flaws that kind of hold it back a little bit. So, in that order, we're gonna give Wrath of the Righteous. Well, let's look at the scale, okay? This is the Enda rating scale, everyone. 10 is a flawless masterpiece. 9, everyone should play this. 8, great experience worth playing. 7, good play if it sounds fun. 6, alright play if you like the genre. 5, average. 4, still a functioning game. 3, barely worth playing. 2, everyone should avoid this. 1, no redeemable qualities. So on the Enda scale, I think an 8.5 is pretty fair here. It's between great experience worth playing and everyone should play this. This is not a game I'm going to go and be like, you should play this. Oh yeah, you need to play Wrath of the Righteous. But it's definitely a game that, with a few changes, would be up there, right? It's a game that, like, if it had voice acting, if they had better animations for maybe a bit more facial expressions on the artwork, it definitely would be up there, right? But as it stands, very, very solid game. Easily one of the best RPGs out there. Maybe well, Disco Elysium exists, but Disco Elysium, the 9.9 game exists. 9.7. Why did I give it a 9.7? I don't even remember, but I probably had a good reason. Remaster 20 years will fix it. Yeah, true. But yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Let's go look at critics. Open critic, Wrath of the Righteous. 8.1. Damn. Pretty fair, honestly. Average time, 122 hours. Our time was a solid... 324 hours. Oh, God bless. Only about 100 hours above Elden Ring. 100 hours above Baldur's Gate 3. You know, just a slightly long game. And that's single-handedly skewing the average. Hey, what can I say? I'm an average gamer. Pretty nuts for single player, yeah, definitely. Oh, let me put it on our thing here too. Dude. Alright, I don't think I have anything else to say about the game. Like I said, I unfortunately didn't get around to write like a complete write-out of my thoughts on the game, so there might be some stuff that I'm just forgetting about. But I think nearly 2 hours of rambling about the game is pretty good. Overall, extremely solid RPG that has some things that might be problems to some people, not problems to others, right? But overall, extremely solid. Easily one of the best RPGs out there. Great story, epic journey, full combat, great build variety, lovely characters, like lots of great stuff to say about the game. Very seriously considering replaying the game, doing different builds, not on stream, but seriously considering just like doing an Aeon playthrough and a Devil playthrough and a Trickster playthrough. Very seriously considering it, but we'll see if I ever get around to it, because I think about that for all games and I end up never doing it. So, yeah. Overall, super solid game. If you're a Wrath of the Righteous player, 5 more months of Wrath of the Righteous. If you're a Wrath of the Righteous player, you picked a great game to play as your main game. I am unfortunately moving on though, so to anyone that's just here for Wrath of the Righteous, I appreciate your company. It has been a great 5-month journey for me, and I hope you all had a wonderful time too. I will probably be back at some point with more Alcat games, but for now we're taking a little break and play some shorter games. You will not see Wrath of the Righteous on the stream again unless someone pays me $1 million to do it. Hey, guys, we'll do another Path of Wrath of the Righteous broadcast at 1,000 subs, okay? What's next? Well, let me tell you what we're doing next. Pretty simple. The plan moving forwards is that in October, I promised you guys some horror games. So we're going to play 2 to 3 horror games, starting with Resident Evil 4. After that, we might play Dead Space. And then we might play a newly released game that I might regret playing, called... It's on my wish list. Total Chaos, because that looks kind of cool. So we might do 2 to 3 horror games, because I promised some horror games in October. Once we're done with horror games, we are going to jump into a short game bonanza. We're going to play a bunch of short games that I wanted to play before Wrath of the Righteous, and we're probably going to spin the wheel. For anyone that doesn't know about the wheel, we're probably going to spin the wheel for like 10 times. We'll probably spin this thing like 10 times. Because we need a lot of variety to get over 5 months of Wrath of the Righteous, so... this is just a bunch of games people have recommended to me, and some games that I wanted to play. So, it's just a crap load of games. It's 70 games, so we might spin this like 10 times to see what we end up doing. But yeah, that's kind of the plan. The plan is to play a bunch of shorter games. The thing though is that Deb redeemed Yakuza 7. So what that means is that I'm gonna give her 3 options. Option 1 is we do it once a week until I feel like playing it more, meaning that we'll do like a once a week Yakuza 7. Option 2, I'll let her redeem something else, like just like pick a different game. Option 3, she can we can wait until I'm done with the short games, and then we do that as a full playthrough. That's where we're at. So either we're doing Yakuza once a week, we're not doing it at all, or we're doing it like after all the short games. I'll leave that up to Deb to decide. So if you're a Yakuza fan, we're at least probably doing some Yakuza sometime soon. As for like the next big game coming up, I don't really have any plans. I think what we're gonna do is play all the short games. At the end of the year, we'll do our regular end of the year show, and I'll go through a bunch of games to see what I kind of want to play next year, and then we'll take it from there. So there's so many long games on our list still. Nothing remotely as long as Wrath of the Righteous, but you know, there's a bunch of long games for us to play. So that's kind of the plan. Thank you all for being here. Hope you all had a fantastic video game time. Super enjoyed myself. Wrath of the Righteous was way too long, but I don't regret playing it for a second. I had a thoroughly enjoyable experience throughout all of my 5-month journey. I got bored a couple of times. I was like, oh, but for the most part, I had a really enjoyable time. Great game. Super enjoyed it. Are there plans for Hades? Hades is definitely up there. That's probably like top 3 games that I'm planning to play next. So definitely. Why are you asking? Do you want to play it first, or are you just excited for that? Thanks for the stream, Senda. No returns. No. Thank you for the stream. Big return. Thank you so much, Sophie. Sorry for the like raid timing, Sophie, but everyone please go check out Sophie. She's super cool. She plays mostly games that you're unlikely to see other places. A lot of like not only like super obscure weird games, but like a lot of a lot of games that are like a little bit under the radar, which are pretty cool. Always love it to watch her streams. So definitely recommend giving her a follow if you haven't already followed her. Also played recently. Yeah, definitely gonna play Hades soon. Like that's definitely like a soon goal. But we need to like unwind from Wrath first. So I've invested. But yeah, that's it for me, everyone. It always feels weird ending like this long of a journey, right? It feels like a chapter of my life is ending right now. It feels like I'm saying goodbye to an old friend. Like I said before, I appreciate everyone that's just here for Wrath of Righteous. You probably have other incredible Wrath of Righteous streamers to go to. But that's an hour for me at least. Appreciate your company. If you want to hang out for more games, that's awesome. If you don't want to hang out for more games, then completely understand. I do variety, so I play literally anything. Like I'll play horror games, I'll play visual novels, I'll play RPGs, I'll play action games. There's a game list underneath the thing you can click, which is this thing right here. Which is the list of all the games I'm planning to play. Like this is just like it's literally a game sorted by hype levels of about 800 games, and I'm probably gonna add another 100 games to this at the end of the year. So we're at 821 games right now, of which I played only a few. So there's a huge just list of games here that that we haven't played. Just a ton of games, an impossible amount of games. So yeah, if you're new, feel free to stream on Discord, all that good stuff. I'll be back to regular time on Saturday with some horror games, starting with Resident Evil 4. Oof, Jesus, what a journey, huh? We're gonna head over to our video game friend Motis. Just playing a game I'm not planning to play anytime soon. Red messages. Oh, I could have read the we had a spoiler channel on Discord for Wrath of Righteous. I didn't read it. I thought about reading it on stream, but probably could have done that. But hey, I'll just read through it in my own time. my dogs needed a walk in food an hour ago, so they're getting pretty restless. But yeah, great game, everyone. Super cool journey. Definitely looking forward to potentially doing some paths of my own. This is like if I was like a full-time streamer, you know, like stream 8 hours a day every day, wouldn't mind I wouldn't mind doing like like the 2 days a week Wrath of the Righteous thing, but unfortunately that is not the reality we live in. I only stream 4 days a week, so big sad times. I think I do look forward to watching other people play the game though. I only know like Co-Carnage that has played it out of like people that I watched, but maybe in the future some other person that I follow on Twitch will play it. Not Motis for sure. This is not a Motis game. Zero Wrath was all the Pathfinders we made righteous along the way. True. That's it for me. Love you all. Appreciate you all. Hope you all had a great, fantastic time. Have a great end of your week. See you all back on Saturday in a couple of days. Regular time, 12:00 no time, 12 p.m. GMT plus 1. Schedule down there, local time zones, all that good stuff. Keep fighting fouls, and bye-bye. Red Jill, but not a red child.